I cried when they played me the soundtrack because it was perfect. It was exactly what I dreamed it to be. I think it elevates the film. Like, I think that it makes the film 50% better. I'm reluctant to say too much about what I think happens moving forward, because I do potentially want to develop it into a feature. Female masturbation is something that is really shied away from in media, in films and TV. I think we see a lot of guys jacking off, but not a lot of girls doing the same thing.
Hey, it's CK, and I am delighted to be chatting with British actress Louisa Connolly-Burnham. Maybe you've seen Louisa on TV shows, including Midsummer Murders, Doctors, Wolf Blood, Call the Midwife, Holby City, Casualty, Death in Paradise, and more. But I stumbled across Louisa on Twitter following the release of her immense debut short film, The Call Centre, released April of this year. Marking Louisa's debut as a writer, producer and director, Louisa also takes the lead role of Paige, a shy call centre worker who, following a phone call from a charming mystery man, experiences a sexual exhilaration she finds both new and irresistible. Deciding to meet the mystery man after work provokes a series of events that change the course of Paige's life forever. Now, guys, warning, my interview with Louisa is packed with spoilers. I love the film so much that I really wanted to get to the heart of it and dissect its many highlights. So, if you haven't watched The Call Centre yet, listening to our chat will absolutely, without question, ruin it for you. Seriously, guys, watch the film first, then come back. You have been warned. Now, having won a clutch of awards, festival screenings, and approaching 700,000 views on YouTube, I began by asking Louisa if the film's success has been a treat.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled. I mean, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into when I decided to do this, but I wanted to direct for a really long time. And I've been writing bits and bobs over the years, but this was the story that kind of inspired me enough to do it. It's been thrilling. I think I've been an actress for 14 years now, and I love acting, and it's still kind of my number one love. But you don't have much control as an actress on set. You can't, call any of the shots or make as many decisions as you'd like. So it was really nice to have total control over a project. It was lovely. I really, really loved it, and I want to do more of it for sure.
Interestingly, Louisa, you've used the word control about 4 times there, and I know you are a self-confessed, based on my research, you are a self-confessed control freak. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah, totally. It's I think it's one of my biggest flaws, but also one of the best things about me. I think being a control freak and coinciding with getting a project made, I think is fantastic. But yeah, sometimes it's good to kind of relinquish a little bit of control, for sure.
I think there's a sliding scale. I think you can be controlling without being a knob, I find.
Exactly.
There's so many.
Yeah.
I think being a control freak sometimes gets a bad press, but you can be the nicest of control freaks. But you can even be a collaborative control freak as well, I find. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that side of my personality was really useful in making The Call Centre, and I think I kind of harnessed it in a really positive way. I think I was a good boss. I think I was, so I think it was okay in the realm of making my film. But yeah, there's definitely a balance to strike with it.
I wonder, Louisa, because it's quite sweet actually, because I generally find sometimes with creators and or directors, sometimes they can be a little bit too cool for school when it comes to actually showing their appreciation for people's warmth online. And one of the things you've done, which is really sweet, and I'm very much lean this way myself, is that obviously, as I just said, you've almost hit 700,000 views, but so many of the comments on YouTube, you reply to them yourself, and that's quite rare. People might listen to me and think, why is that a big deal? But Especially when it's not even your YouTube channel. When it's on a platform that showcases short films, you just jump straight in and kind of interact and talk and thank people. Is that just in your nature, or?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've always been like that. I mean, I'm not cool for school at all. I'm a total nerd. Um, so people enjoying something that I've made, I love talking to them about it. In the same way that, you know, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of so many things, and I would love if I messaged somebody that made something that I loved, if they got back to me and I could have a discussion with them. You know, that would be so cool. It's why we do it. We do it because we want people to like what we've made. So yeah, I absolutely love talking to people and answering their questions about, you know, who made the soundtrack, or who was your DOP, or, you know, I think it's really, really important to kind of communicate with people. It's why we do it.
Can I just say, Louisa just mentioned that is the most glorious of segues, and you just highlighted the soundtrack and the DOP, and it hasn't surprised me that these have been the points that people have highlighted throughout the comments, whether it's on YouTube or anywhere else. And let's jump straight into Act 1, because this is a nice, tidy 3-act short film, and it is based in a call centre, and unless you've worked in a call centre, which I, like you, Louisa, have over the years, it got me through uni. I've worked in more call centres than I care to think of, so that might contribute to why this connected, I guess. But the anxiety, for me, the anxiety was immediate, because I didn't care for working in call centres, Louisa. I can't lie. I didn't care for it at all. And the anxiety for me just built immediately. And, you know, Paige is very much a person who, she didn't have a call centre job in her marked for her life. She kind of has bigger dreams, and that's just apparent, right? But yeah, so I think one of the things that I want to talk about the soundtrack, because it's just so bold and different. And I'll be honest with you, when that first soundtrack kicked in, I think it was about 1.5 minutes in, it was so, in inverted commas, jarring and unusual. Given the setting, that it bugged me a little bit. So I'm not going to lie. At first I thought, this is just odd, and it felt so jarring. But by the second time the music started to play, I got it, and I genuinely loved it. So it was such a bold choice. Tell us how deliberate that was for you, and if you, when you were writing the script, you knew you wanted to have that almost electro 80s-esque, very bold soundtrack very early on.
Yeah, I definitely knew that I wanted that kind of soundtrack. It comes from a love of two soundtracks in my life, which is the soundtrack to the film Drive.
Yes.
And the soundtrack to the film Lost in Translation. I'm a huge, huge fan of that kind of like 80s electric kind of music, the way that it kind of moves through your body. It almost feels like a heartbeat. The way that it pulses, I think it's very sexy. And that's what I wanted for Paige. And also, I think it's quite contrasting with what Paige looks like and what the office looks like. And I did want it to be a little bit jarring. But I wanted something that would, you know, go through the audience's body. I wanted it to be like a heartbeat pulsing kind of through their skin, and I think that even though it seems jarring, I actually do think it matches Paige's energy, that kind of like under the surface racing, and I think particularly as the film goes on, I think the music kind of follows Paige's journey in a really beautiful way. It was made by a group called OL Creative, so that's Fez Ogans and Bastien Testori. And like for me, I mean, I cried when they played me the soundtrack, because it was perfect. It was exactly what I dreamed it to be. I think it elevates the film. Like, I think that it makes the film 50% better. It was my dream soundtrack. I can't thank them enough. And actually, it's interesting. I think, what's the day? Is it the 20th today or the 19th?
Today's the 20th, yeah.
Okay, we're actually releasing the soundtrack tomorrow on the 21st. I'm not sure when this comes out, but the soundtrack is being released tomorrow, which we're really excited about. So So yeah, because everybody was asking to hear it, so me and Fez have decided to release it. So that's exciting.
Oh, mate, that. You know what? From a creator, writer, director, that is. When you put something out into the universe, you kind of have areas of the project that you suspect, hope, and imagine people will connect to, right? And then sometimes you'll find that, oh, people really really liking this. I didn't anticipate that. How did you give a second thought to whether the soundtrack will connect, or did you just think, well, I like it and that's enough?
I liked it, and that was enough.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah.
And what brief did you give to Fez and the guys at OL Creative when it came? Did you give them the references that you just alluded to, Drive and so on, or?
I made a little playlist on Spotify as the vibe that I wanted it to be. So it was a couple of songs from Drive, a couple of songs from Lost in Translation, and then a few other tracks that I found. And I sent the playlist over to Fez and the gang and said, this is the vibe that I want to go for. And then they came back with my soundtrack, and it was perfect.
Yeah, they knocked it out of the park. I bet you had a little weep. You must have had a little weep to yourself.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, totally. Cried like a baby. Couldn't believe it. It's like it came through at a height of a stressful time during post-production. We were in the edit. There was just, a lot going on, a lot going on. And then I was it came in the evening, and I got into bed after a long day in the edit and a long day of just doing stuff for the film. And then I got this email through from Fez saying, here's the soundtrack. And I just put my headphones in, and I lied there in my bed exhausted and had this soundtrack in my ears. And I was like, oh yeah, this is why we're doing it.
And was that
what it's all about?
Was that literally, Louisa? Was that draft one? That was the first thing he sent you?
Yeah. Oh, well there was a couple of tweaks.
Sure.
But barely anything at all, to be honest. It was pretty flawless when it arrived. It was incredible.
So let's move on a little bit so there's panning shots as you are orientating the viewer as a director. There's panning shots throughout the call centre. And this is what I really liked. And I didn't know when I watched it for the first time that you worked in a call centre. But when I learned that you did, it made so much sense, because you had, if anyone's ever worked in a call centre, you'll know there's a very distinct look and there's very distinct characters. And you seem to have got them all in there. But weirdly, none of them are actors. They're all just your mates, right? I think that you called on to help you out.
All my friends were the people in the office.
Yeah, and these are the five. I mean, there's many characters, but the ones that I related to, I'm just going to go through five of them. There was Middle Finger Girl, who I love.
Oh my god, yeah, that's my friend Becca. Shout out.
So Middle Finger Girl is what I call the person that just, sometimes when you work in a call centre and someone's giving you grief on the phone, you'll just do whatever you can to let them know you don't appreciate it, even though you know they don't know. So she's giving a customer the middle finger. There's Pretending to Give a Shit Girl. That's the agent who to build rapport with a potential customer, you just pretend to give a shit about what they're talking about, and she was great. There's Recliner Guy, the guy who's just super relaxed. Customer Charmer Guy, lots of teeth, very nice. And then it pans across finally to you, Louisa, and I call you, how did my life come to this, girl?
Yeah, fair enough.
Just vacantly gazing out of the window, right? Yeah, so what kind of instructions did you give all the supporting characters to kind of just get them to nail that very distinct look? Did you give them clear direction? Because you kind of just said, right, guys, pretend to be on a call.
Well, the great thing is that all of those actors, all the supporting artists that you see in the office, they are all of my best friends, but they are also actors. Some of them, really well known and really successful. So they all kind of had an idea already going in of the kind of thing that they wanted to do. And I just made sure that they were aware to be contrasting as to whoever was next to them.
Good afternoon, you've come through to Paige at Days Insurance. How can I help you today?
Hello, Paige.
Hello. How can I help you today?
I'd like to take out your life insurance policy. One of your colleagues, Sarah, I believe, sent me a quote last week. I think it sounds perfect.
Oh, fantastic. Just for security purposes, can you confirm your full name and your date of birth for me, please?
Of course. David Prescott, 24th of October, 1971. Ancient, basically. How old are you, Paige?
21.
Wow. 21. So young. Lovely.
Tell us a little bit about the phone call. So a guy called David Prescott rings you, Paige. Louisa, tell us about David Prescott.
Yeah, so basically, David comes through on Paige's headset looking to set up some life insurance, which Paige does for him. But kind of right off the bat, from when she answers the phone, he seems to have like a little bit of an edge to his voice, a little bit of like an ulterior motive. And I think Paige isn't sure whether she's making it up in her head or if it's real, but he seems to be being incredibly flirtatious with her. And it excites Paige a lot. I think it wakes her up from her days at work. And I guess I can give spoilers, can't I? Because we've already warned them.
I insist.
Okay. So the phone call is so exciting to her that she, after setting up his life insurance, decides to steal some of his data off the computer, and she decides to write down his address on her hand and makes the decision in that moment that they had this connection that she had been looking for and that she is going to go and find him tonight, basically.
So here's what I took away from that exchange between Paige and David is you have said that he was flirty, but it's easy for someone to get the wrong impression because neither of the exchanges from David or from Paige were overt. I thought it was very well written and it was very subtle. I mean, you could have easily written Paige as some overtly crazed nymph, but she's not that at all, which is what I really appreciate. And I mean, she's almost soft and gentle. And one review actually described her as mousy, which I totally agree. She's very meek. Yeah. She's very meek as a character. She's not like necessarily overtly sexual, which I think is what heightened it for me. I don't know if you think that's a fair comment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I wanted her to be understated. I wanted her to be shy. I mean, I don't even know if Paige has ever had sex. Paige might be a virgin. So I don't think she even has many kind of experiences having a flirtatious back and forth with somebody. So I think that she's not entirely sure whether he is kind of giving her those signals or not, but something about that conversation makes her want to take the risk. He brings her to life, in a way, in that phone call.
Is it okay if I call you David?
I would like that, Paige.
Thank you, David. Well, I can see here that Sarah sent you out a quote for a cash lump sum of £250,000. Is that correct?
It is indeed. You have a lovely voice. Go on, you were saying.
Well, to cover yourself for that amount, you'll be paying a monthly premium of £20.17, but there's nothing for you to pay for the first 30 days should you change your mind. Is that okay?
I rarely change my mind. I know what I want.
Right.
Here's a question which is a bit macro. Is Paige, in your head, you wrote, so I suspect, because it's funny how you just said, I don't know if she's even had sex before. I imagine as the writer, you do build worlds for character which you never see on film. So I suspect you know the answer to that question. I don't know how. Go on.
I'm careful with how I speak. I'm careful with how I speak about it because a lot of people have asked me questions about Paige's backstory and about David's backstory, and people want to know where these people came from. People want to know what happens after the film. And I, of course, have my own idea of who these people are and what happens before and after. But I'm also reluctant to kind of put an idea into people's head, because I really want people to make up their own minds about who they think she really is and who they think David is and what happened before and what happened after. So I'll tell you that, yes, in my head, Paige is a virgin, but I also don't want to take away somebody else's idea of Paige. You know, who knows? Maybe some people think that Paige is a total nymph, like you said, but I do like people to make up their own minds beyond what they see in the film.
That's a beautiful note, actually. That's well observed, and I think you're right. And as a creator, I take great joy in allowing people to develop their own storylines, which, by the way, people have done en masse on YouTube. It's hilarious reading the comments.
Oh my God, it's brilliant! I love it.
Same. There's some suggestions that she's a premeditated maniac. I love it.
Yeah, I know. They think she's a total psychopath, which maybe she is. People are entitled to have that opinion. There are some fantastic theories on YouTube. I love reading them. They're brilliant. People are like pitching me ideas for the feature film, for the sequel. It's brilliant. I love it.
Correct. Tell us then, with regards to that phone call, tell us about, because one of the things that really, I think, heightens the anxiety and certainly communicates this rush of adrenaline that Paige is experiencing. Like, there's so many pauses, macro close-ups. The entire film, not just the phone call, the entire film is very breathy, which I'll talk about as we go along. But I notice it's a very breathy film. You can hear breath a lot in this film. Yeah. And your eyes, I don't know, you communicate so much without actually doing a great deal, if that makes sense. And that's not undermining you as an actress. That's almost the complete opposite. You use your eyes a lot. And as I said, there's the close-ups. And I've been led to believe you were very deliberate in close-ups. When you were writing the script, you knew you wanted those macro close-ups on her lips, on her eyes, on her hands, lightly, I won't say caressing, lightly dusting her neck. Let's say that.
Yeah, totally. So all of those macro shots of her kind of facial and body features were all written into the script, into the stage directions, particularly during the phone call, because I kind of wanted to depict Paige coming alive, her body awakening in this new kind of like sexual, exciting way. And also I wanted to like zone in on her because obviously, technically, she's in a room with 50 people in a call centre with, like, loads and loads of stuff happening around her. But when this phone call comes through, I wanted it to be like nothing else in the world was happening. It was just about Paige and David. And I felt like doing those shots of going close in and watching her kind of awaken were really important to kind of zone in on them too, and Paige especially.
Is Paige, incidentally, I think the answer to this question is yes. Is Paige younger than Louisa?
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you did it, Louisa, but like, talk us through how you de-aged your voice. I didn't even realise it till I watched it twice, that you dramatically de-aged your voice, because Paige doesn't really sound like Louisa. And even her tone is different. She actually sounds really young, because you don't sound really young per se, but Paige does. So
yeah, no, I've got quite a low husky voice. I just went higher in my octave, really. I went higher in my octave, and yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain, really. I mean, I guess I don't know.
Well,
just put on that voice. I don't know how to explain it.
To be fair, Louisa, I suspect every living actor is listening to me saying this now, saying, "God, that's what we're supposed to do. Who is this heathen? That's our job." And I'd have sympathy with that. As a non-actor, I suspect it is just in your repertoire to, I don't know, to mold, morph, and change your voice. Just like, that's what you do. But
kinda.
It was just one of those things that stood out to me, and like I said, I didn't notice it till the second time round. And when I was watching a few interviews with you, I just oh shit, she sounds a lot younger in the film.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Act 2. But before we go on to Act 2, actually, I just want to give a shout out to DOP actually, and because the actual colour of the film is it's got lots of whites, blues. It's quite cold, but not clinical. So there's lots of whites, blues, and kind of greens and so on. Is that, again, an aesthetic that you very much had from the get-go when you were scripting it?
Yeah, definitely. So very lucky to have Angela Zoe Neal as our DOP, and we also had a fantastic colourist called Liz Glenard. And again, bigging up Drive. I love the colour of Drive, that kind of like electric blue, and we definitely wanted the office to feel quite cold and quite sterile, so we definitely wanted lots of whites and blues. And then on her journey, we wanted to chuck in like some greens and stuff. And then when she gets into David's house, we wanted to make it a lot warmer. So a lot more yellows, a lot more oranges. We actually went that route with David's house because we wanted to give a full sense of security, to make it seem like this warm, safe, lovely house, where actually that's where the darkest things happen. So yeah, you were totally spot on with the colours there.
So, as you said, take us through Act 2. So, Paige has decided she's going to steal data. She's written David's address on her palm. It is now evening. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's 9:30, 10, dark, London, looking very London. And she makes her way to David's house, knocks on his door, and just take us from here.
Yeah, so she travels across London, arrives in North London, which is where I live, and knocks on his door, kind of assuming that as soon as David answers the door that he's going to know exactly who she is, which he doesn't. It does take her a couple of sentences before he kind of clicks as to who she is. We also made the decision in the edit not to reveal David straight away. So the way that we shot it is we actually keep the camera on Paige for the first few sentences, and we don't actually flip back to David until he clicks and realises who it is that's at his door.
Can I help you?
David.
Yep. Who are you?
Paige.
And?
We spoke on the phone today. I set up your life insurance.
Okay. You better come in then, Paige.
Right, I want to now, Louisa, I just want to... I didn't notice this till the second viewing, and it's been bugging me ever since, and I don't know if this is like a little subtle Easter egg that you've put in the film. If people see it, they do. If they don't, they don't. But I want to talk a minute about Paige's FLASK. Here's the thing, right, Louisa. This is probably going to be. I'm either going to make a massive knobhead of myself here, or I've actually picked up on something. I'm hoping it's the latter, right? First time I watched The Call Centre, I didn't even notice that she walked to his house with the flask. Why would I? Second time I watched it, I thought, hang on a minute, what's she got in her hand? Because she's walking down the street. There's panning shots of her on the overground, etc. And I just thought to myself, what's she got in her hand? And I thought, oh, it's a flask. And then I thought, well, why she got I just didn't understand why she had her flask, her flask that she has tea or coffee or whatever she's drinking at work. I didn't get it. And then it just it was really bugging me forever, and I just didn't get it. And then she goes in the house, talks to David, and then he even references nice flask. And I'm thinking, there's got to be something behind this flask, because why would you even put that in the script? It doesn't make sense, right? So I'm thinking, hang on a minute, why has she done that? And I don't even know if I'm going into territory you don't want to, but is there something in that flask? Is there more to it than a casual viewer might think? Or am I just being too granular?
I wish there was some deeper meaning behind this flask, but there's not. Everybody seems to be so hyped up about the flask.
Really?
Originally, it was purely for a little bit of comedy at the beginning, for when she says, "Oh, you get 50p off Pret now if you use one." So it was just like it was just a little nerdy thing for her to have at the beginning with that conversation that she has with the guy in the office when he offers her a coffee and she's like, no, it's fine, I've already got one. Just completely kind of no game and no flirting. She doesn't really know how to do it.
No game.
We just figured that, you know, she's a bit nerdy, she's a bit geeky, she's got a bag, she's got a puffer jacket, and she has her little flask that she takes everywhere. So it was just kind of like, I don't know, it just became a little prop for Paige. There's no kind of, there's no bigger story behind it.
So it's really interesting, Louisa. You mentioned people have been hyping up, like what? Because I've not seen any of this. Because as you've probably gathered, I've really enjoyed reading the comments on YouTube and elsewhere. But I haven't seen anyone else reference the FLASK. So what have people been developing their own conspiracy theories around it then?
Yeah, totally. Well, people think that she leaves the FLASK at the house, which she doesn't. She actually picks it up. But it's quite quick, so you don't see it in the edit.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people miss the moment where she picks up the FLASK before she leaves his house. So a lot of people think that she's going to get caught because she's left her flask there with her DNA on it. I have been having to go back to them going, no, if you go to this minute and you slow down, you'll see that she does pick it up. So yeah, people have definitely got their theories about the flask. But it was supposed to just be like a fun, sweet, innocent little prop for her that shows that she's eco-friendly.
That is so funny, because that conspiracy theory that you just shared then, that is exactly what I thought. That is exactly what I thought. That's why I thought she left it there. So it was to allude to the fact that she has left some DNA at the scene, because she was very meticulous about cleaning up the scene. And we'll expand on what I mean by cleaning up the scene in a minute. But that is exactly what I thought. And I feel like, because I'm not normally that guy, I'm not normally that nerdy guy who just conceives ridiculous conspiracies, but it just, like I said, that I just didn't get why the FLASK, not in a bad way, it was quite cute. Now I know the reason for it, but as you said, it's the way it was framed. You never actually saw her physically pick it up. You see her collecting her coat, her scarf, etc. But you never saw it. And I was just thinking, there's no way it can't be it can't be a DNA thing, because at the very least, you'd have probably just had like quite a wide shot of her leaving where you could still see the FLASK there. It wouldn't have been an obvious thing, but you'd have certainly alluded to it. But then I thought maybe she's
got the flask in her hand when she leaves, but I think it's covered by her jacket.
Correct.
I think her coat is over it, so I think maybe you can't see it clearly. So
correct.
I wish I'd noticed that in the edit.
yeah. No, that's fun. That's fun. I like that. So,
although equally, I kind of like that it sparked this conversation. So.
Especially when it comes out of left field, because you can't have imagined that people would have conceived such a fanciful conspiracy. So that must be quite nice from your point of view.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good fun.
So we are now in the kitchen of David, and Louisa is nervy. She's exhilarated. She's excited. And this is what I don't know. Again, I just take away that it's a very breathy film. You can hear the breaths a lot, and I don't know whether this is something that was deliberate on your part to crank up the sense of anxiety, or is that just me?
No, definitely. Yeah, the breath was a really big part of the film, and yeah, I think as soon as she arrives in that house, I think the excitement is definitely kind of doubled, and it's getting it's definitely getting exciting for her. So yeah, breath was a big part of it. I think breath is one of the main physical giveaways of your state of mind. So yeah, for sure.
Why are you here, Paige?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
I felt alive when I spoke to you.
And
I wanted to see you in real life. But I didn't know you have a family. I should have checked on the system. I should go.
No. Don't go. Okay? You've come a long way. I'm happy to have you.
This was a mistake.
Stay.
No.
Stay!
There's a surprising lack of score in the entirety of the house scene, and take us through that. I mean, I'm guessing you experimented and played around and maybe you even added some music and then took it straight back out. Talk us through if that's the case.
Yeah, we had some music originally kind of for that, for all the stuff that happens in the house. We obviously had the option of the stuff that's throughout the rest of the film to kind of double that up or extend it and put it through the kitchen scene. But the soundtrack team had also made something completely different for the house. They'd made a kind of like a more classical piano-y kind of piece. But we just decided, like, when me and Stella were in the edit, there was already quite a lot of music through the film. It was already quite a big part of the film, and we thought, well, in this really important middle bit, in the kind of what everything has been building to, maybe it should just be about the dialogue. It should just be about the moment and just have it still and quiet and intense. So, yeah, we did deliberately in the end decide that we weren't going to have any music in the house, just so that we could really, really focus in on what was happening between David and Paige.
I think that was a great choice, and I would argue a brave one, because that is one of the scenes where, you know, it's ultimately the dramatic apex of the film. And often with the dramatic apex of a film, it's just almost default to put dramatic apex music, right? And so for you to not to was a brave choice, but one that 100% worked for me, because I just think it heightened the anxiety. And I very rarely feel anxious during a film, but there was definitely a lot of heart racing going on in that scene.
Yeah, because, like, there's obviously a sexual assault that happens, and I didn't want to put this big dramatic soundtrack behind the sexual assault, because a sexual assault is dramatic enough as it is, and it deserves to be looked at and watched for what it is. And I wanted it to be uncomfortable. There are so many, you know, situations like that happen in the real world, and with film, we have the power to show them for what they are, without, you know, fancying them up with, like, an orchestra. That is what it would look like: stark, uncomfortable, dangerous, gritty, and that's how I wanted to show it.
Tell us then, Louisa, tell us about Alun Raglan. What a specimen of a man he is, by the way. I mean,
Indeed.
Sorry?
Yeah, indeed. He's very tall. He's perfect for the role.
How tall is he? Because I couldn't tell if it was just a contrast, because you're quite slight, I imagine. So I don't know if that's made him look taller, but, like, how tall is he? Because he looks like a monster.
Well, I'm 5'3" and he's 6'6". So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And big difference.
That's 6'6". So tell us, did you know Alan? Did you cast him? Tell us through the casting process.
I've known Alan for years, because we did a show together for quite a while called Wolf Blood, which was a BBC show, and then him and I also did a show called Death in Paradise together. What's funny, actually, is on Death in Paradise, our characters have an affair, so having our second affair in my film. But yeah, he's a fantastic actor, and he's obviously so tall, he's so big, that I thought he would be the perfect kind of towering presence for Paige.
It was great casting and great, well played as well. And did you have, I mean, I don't know, I suppose this isn't one of the questions you're going to say, oh, absolutely not, but did you have Alan in mind as you were writing the script and writing the part of David?
Yeah, he was totally in my mind for it. So I was, you know, very happy when he agreed to jump on board. It was lovely, and it's nice because it was such a tough subject matter, particularly some of the stuff that happens in the house. It's always nice to do that kind of scene with somebody that you know. So so I was very happy when he came on board.
I discovered a really interesting thread between your past to your present, which put a little smile on my face, because the film was released, excuse me, The film was released April 2020, but you wrote it around Christmas time 2019, during November and December. But I found an interview from you from November 2016, so like going 3 years before this script even dropped into your head. And there was an interview when someone asked you what would be your dream role to play. Can you remember your answer to this?
No.
Because this was just odd, and it was just an interesting bit of psychology for me. So someone asked you in 2019, Louisa, who would be your dream role to play, and your answer was Poison Ivy from Batman, because I'm a redhead and my favourite colour is green. Also, she gets to kiss people and kill them. And I was like, holy shit. Like, the seeds of
Is that too much to ask?
The seeds of the call centre were planted long before you even made it, without you even knowing it, because as I said, like the colour palette of the film, there's a lot of green in there, so that probably just subconsciously speaks to your fondness. But the fact you fantasised about kissing and killing someone before the film was made.
Well, that's a little insight into my psyche for you there.
I'm afraid so. If we ever meet, it'll be too soon, mate. To be honest.
Careful.
So let's go on to Act 3. So there's been Act 2 where David and Paige meet. There's an incident. There's a violent incident, and Paige flees, taking her flask. Apparently, I'm still not convinced. I think that's your gateway to the feature. So take us to Act 3. What's happening in Act 3, Louisa?
So what's Act 3 for you, when she returns back to the office? Or?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, she goes back to her mundane life in the office, clearly quite changed, clearly quite shaken up, but still very bored, and has kind of gone back to being disconnected again from the world. And then a phone call comes through to her headset from a woman saying that she wants to make a claim because her husband has been murdered. Paige immediately perks up when she hears the word murder, for obvious reasons. And she discovers through the phone call that the woman that she's speaking to is in fact David's wife, which is obviously worrying. But it turns out that David's wife doesn't really mind that David is dead, because apparently he was a little bit of an asshole to her. And so Paige ends up kind of liberating David's wife and giving her this, I think it was £250,000 cash lump sum payout for the life insurance. And yeah, so it kind of ends on a good note, I guess. Again, depending on how you view it, people also have lots of theories about that ending as well.
They do. And, you know, again, as someone that I don't produce narrative films. A lot of mine are social experiments, documentaries and stuff, but I'm really fascinated by the mechanics of a script and the mechanics of a character and a character arc and so on. And one thing that I'm learning as I do more research into what makes a great screenplay, excuse me, is that often if a viewer doesn't see growth or progression or development in a character, it's very unfulfilling. And Paige seems to have all of them. She's certainly been on a journey, and she's certainly a new person at the end. Or at least she's an evolved person at the end compared to who she was at the start. She seems to have a new spark and a new confidence in her, doesn't she?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the whole experience changes her for the better. And I think definitely that last phone call with his wife is really the clincher for her of her new life, of her new start. I think that she has a bit of a taste for it, perhaps, a bit of a taste for danger, for sex. And I think it does give her a newfound confidence. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, again, I'm reluctant to say too much about what I think happens moving forward, because I do potentially want to develop it into a feature. So I do have ideas in my head of what I think she does afterwards, but I'm not going to go too much into them, but there are definitely some theories.
Good afternoon. You've come through to Paige at Days Insurance. How can I help you today?
I'd like to make a claim.
And what sort of claim will you be making with us today?
It's in regards to my husband's life insurance.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Don't be. He was a prick.
Oh. Right. When did your husband pass away?
4 weeks ago.
What was the cause of death?
He was murdered.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awful.
Tell me, Paige, do you believe in karma?
I'm not sure.
I do. I believe bad things happen to bad people. He was bad.
What was your husband's first and last name?
David Prescott.
And are you aware how much Mr. Prescott's left you?
I'm hoping it's something substantial for the time I've served.
I wonder, just closing up, final thoughts, have there been any comments on YouTube that you've particularly raised a smile or you liked or you enjoyed? I've got one in front of me that really made me laugh.
Oh God, I wish I had them in front of me. Somebody says that Paige walks like a penguin, which was another
that was
choice
that was the person that said she doesn't move her arms, and it's just weird.
Yep. Yep.
It's hilarious.
And that was I really wanted Paige to have a really weird walk, so I'm glad that people noticed that. What other good ones are there? I can't think. You have to tell me some of them if you've got them in front of you.
Well, this made me laugh because there was a lot of speculation about whether it was a premeditated killing of David. Yeah. And someone put on YouTube, it wasn't random. The wife hired her. There's no way you'd get both calls randomly when you start, and then you'll get a call from the wife later. And then someone replied, which made me howl. Someone replied, I doubt it was premeditated because Paige went to strum herself after talking to David. Have you seen?
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about the masturbation scene in the bathroom. I hope you're not skirting around it, CK.
Well, it's not so much I'm skirting around it. It's just that I feel I've revealed that many spoilers. I mean, I want people, but then again, as we've established, no one's going to be listening to this interview having not watched the film. But I did want to leave something, and ultimately
saving the best bit for them.
Perhaps, but ultimately, what am I going to say? Like, I'm a dude. I love my favourite scene. What am I going to say?
Love it, brilliant.
What am I going to say? I mean, you know, I'm being a little bit facetious when I say favourite. It was my favourite scene because it was. I don't know. I mean, talk us. I don't know. I don't really have anything to say. I thought it was a great scene, and it was.
No, you're right. I think it speaks for itself. We'll let them enjoy that bit on their own time.
I mean, I think it does. I think it was. I don't know if brave's the right word. It was just quite. It was just. I don't know. I think there was a lot of brave choices in the film throughout, and that's why I liked it because it wasn't just meh. Like all your choices I'm talking about now, none of them were meh. Like down to the score, which I've said was very bold. The lack of music during the dramatic height, the masturbation. I mean, is there anything that you want to share with regarding the masturbation scene, Louisa?
It was a scene that I wrote that I worried was too explicit, particularly when you see the address on the hands and you can see that like her fingers are wet. Like when I was writing it, I was like, is this just too much? But then it's the kind of scene that I would personally like to see. I also think that female masturbation is something that is really shied away from in media, in films and TV. I think we see a lot of guys jacking off, but not a lot of girls doing the same thing. And it was actually, I was speaking to my editor about it in the edit. We were discussing that scene, and I said to her how close I was to taking it out because I was worried about making the audience feel uncomfortable. And my editor, Stella, said to me it was that scene was the reason I came onto the project. She was like, it was that scene that enticed me to come on. So it's a really, really important scene to me.
Louisa, listen, I don't know if you want to wrap up with just sharing with us what was it like as to act and direct? Like, I don't know, because it's such I don't know, your performance as Paige is so delicate and measured and precise, but did you find it difficult getting into that level of precision, then having to jump out and direct within a second? Was that flipping between the two? How did you find that experience for the first time?
It felt okay, actually. A lot of people have asked me that, and I loved it. I didn't find it too difficult. I mean, because it was also quite... The script is mainly about two people, so other than the kind of big office scenes, it's not like I'm, shooting Avengers. I'm shooting quite an intimate little film, so it wasn't too difficult.
Fair play. Tell us where we can find you online.
So you can find me on Instagram at Louisa Connolly-Burnham, and you can find me on Twitter at Louisa C. Burnham, and you can also find my production company, Thimble Films, at Thimble Films on both Instagram and Twitter. Thank you so much for talking to me about it, and I'm so glad that you liked it, and your questions have been really fantastic, so thank you.
Congratulations, bud. And again, everyone go and find it. The Call Centre on Omeletto, Omeleto. Hang out with Louisa online. She's very chatty. She's not one of those distant people who ignores you. And Louisa, wishing you all the best, whether it's the Call Centre feature or whatever you do next as a short.
All right.
Wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much. All right, CK, have a nice day.
You too. See you soon.
All right.